Yay!
Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of Debugging Live. This will be our most curated and crafted episode of all time, right, Mark?
Yes, I mean, it's totally in the original idea of debugging on live. We have no idea what we are doing.
Well, like debugging, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you
right.
write code, you have no idea what it does, and with debugging, you try to figure out what you wrote, right? Yeah.
Totally.
Now with Copilot, probably things might change, but that's the true spirit of debugging. So,
Are we going to rename to Copilot on live then?
well, let's think about. I mean, everyone is calling something Copilot these days, so why not us?
Maybe you should put a counter in the top for the amount of Copilot, the amount we have mentioned Copilot. And as I said in the preparation, I would like to push this number higher than Satya mentioned Copilot during the build keynote. And he was talking about Copilot a lot.
Well, since today we are going to talk about the build announcements, I have the feeling that we will name Copilot quite a lot because Copilot was everywhere at build this year in all the flavors and in all the forms. So yeah, probably we might be able to beat Satya. Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's start really slow with what has been the most Copilot-ish thing at build. No, what has been the most interesting thing for you at build? And don't say it's Copilot on Windows.
No. So for me, for the work I do, it's Copilot, the Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Okay.
The part that was most interesting for me, and it's also the newest one, because Copilot as a product was already known. We already presented this a couple of months ago, so we know that Microsoft is launching the Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is the Copilot assistant that runs in Word, PowerPoint, Teams, and so on. At Build, we presented also the extensibility part. So as developer, what we can do to be plugged into the Copilot ecosystem. And the two announcements that I liked more are the plugin story for ChatGPT, which is one nice announcement is that we are following the ChatGPT plugin model. So if you build today a plugin for ChatGPT, it will work in the same way on Azure Open AI and also on Bing AI. And then we have the Microsoft 365 Copilot extensibility story that instead is built on top of the Teams developer story. So if you are using Teams, you might have seen that in the chat bar, you have buttons to perform actions and to invoke apps. I don't know, you can have the GitHub messaging extension and you can search for a GitHub issue and add it in the chat right away. This type of messaging extensions out of the box without any code change will work also as plugins for Microsoft 365 Copilot. So the idea is that if you ask to the Copilot to do one task that requires an external service, automatically the Copilot knows that with this messaging extension, it can connect to SAP, GitHub, Azure DevOps, whatever external system. Or otherwise, if you don't have a Teams messaging extension, you can also start from an API. So you have an open API definition, and from that you can automatically generate the manifest that is required to plug this API into a Copilot extension. This was the part that was most interesting for me. In second place, the Azure Open AI announcements, because in my workload, we are working with customers who are adopting Copilot for Microsoft 365, but they are also building their own experiences. So some of the things I saw around Azure Open AI, like Azure Open AI on your data, prompt flow, semantic kernel. They are all very interesting for developers who wants to build complex apps based on AI.
Okay.
What about you?
It's actually 3 things for me. So given my IoT background, we have now so the event grid with MQTT support has been in private preview for, I would say, a long time, a few months already. So that was, and I really like that. So now you have an MQTT broker that is basically available in the cloud, that is scaling, where you have great control, like ACLs on certain topics. So this is actually a good thing. The only part that was kind of like that, where I see some things missing in the story, is that we still haven't put the device provisioning system into place. I guess that's an open secret that this is being worked on, but obviously it wasn't ready yet. So it will be at some point. But other than that, I mean, so this is a great thing, because before you had to bring, either you were using IoT Hub, but then you had to use the existing IoT Hub SDKs and infrastructure. Lots of my customers were already having MQTT infrastructure and just want to have a broker to ingest the data into the cloud. And now they can have this like simpler solution than just moving entirely to MQTT to the cloud and not just using MQTT. Yes, some might say you can send MQTT message to IoT Hub, and I know, but this is limited, and you have only certain topics, and then you have to reroute the topics, and so on and so forth. So there were a few things involved, but now it has just become much easier. The second most interesting thing has been the vector search feature of cognitive search, which now
this one is really interesting also for me.
Yes, this one makes basically, so this is something, I mean, it's kind of like expected, because it's kind of like a common use case, right? So cognitive search has been used to basically index documents left and right. And it worked pretty well. So if you're interested in what cognitive search can do, check out JFK files. The JFK files demo, where they ingested a few years ago all the JFK files, did OCR on it, did various things. Just check out the architecture, check out the demo. It's really interesting. And now they basically put everything, so now they added something that allows to get the embeddings from the cognitive search instead. So lots of customers have been asking for this, so they have their own sources of truth, PDFs, and so on and so forth that can now be indexed by cognitive search and can then be leveraged by Azure Open AI. So this is a good thing. It's in private preview. So you have to sign up for this. I already got access. That's interesting. Unfortunately, I haven't found the time to throw lots of documents onto cognitive search. But yeah, so it's up and running. So if you're interested in this, give it a shot. And the third most interesting part has been the upgrades to Azure ML, and especially the Azure ML Studio. The Azure ML Studio has been ignored for many years, with a few bugs that have been there for literally years. And only in the last, I would say, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, they have really pushed through, removed all the bugs, improved the UX, improved the UI, and then they started adding new features. And there is this monitoring feature to just understand the model drift. There is this new feature of registry, where you can share, where you basically can create models, share models, data, and all these type of things across multiple workspaces. So this is like really interesting. also components and these type of things. And there are a few new things that have been introduced in preview. For example, you now have direct access through this, actually, through the registries, for example, to the Hugging Face models, only the text ones for now. But so what I did is basically just grabbing the vision ones, because obviously I have strong interest, it's a better wording, strong interest in computer vision. And I was basically just ResNet and all these type of things. I've put them into my own registry, set up a few environments, and now basically I can use the Hugging Face models from my registry, unfortunately, only. Hopefully it will be added to the Hugging Face one, but it still works, and it already works. So I demoed this week to a customer, the ResNet. Works like a charm. So this is really great. And I mean, this affects my daily work. So this is why those have been the most important announcements. But as you said, like
around Azure ML Studio, I liked a lot the prompt flow tool, which seems if you are doing prompt engineering,
it's great.
It's a very good tool for the people, for all of you that didn't watch Build or didn't follow these announcements. Prompt flow is basically a tool that you can use to do testing and iterations on prompt engineering. So, for example, let's say that you need to use an AI solution to evaluate the sentiment of reviews for your products from a catalog. You can write a prompt, see the result. You can create multiple variations of the same prompt so that you can run them in batch and see which one works better. You can do fine-tuning. That one, I really like that one.
Also, content filtering is coming with the prompt flow. And this is an important one because this is likely something, I mean, it has been in the works for a while, and I saw a few previews of this. But this is also a big concern of my customers, and probably of yours as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they put this into a public-facing entity like website or something like that, they really want to make sure that they are not only trusting the filters from OpenAI and not only from Azure, but also have their own filters on top. So yeah, this is a really
and it's also, I saw also that you can customize all the parameters. So you might decide that you are strong on sexual content, but not more relaxed on, I don't know, profanity. So
I'm strong on sexual content, and I'm also strong on profanity.
So if you don't want to be like Marc, you can use Azure moderator service for AI. Indeed.
Yeah.
But that's a very, very good. One of the biggest concern for people who approach AI is hallucination and unwanted
groundedness is what we call it nowadays. Sorry.
You're right. Because one thing is reading on the internet about the funny things that come out from ChatGPT when it hallucinates. One other thing is having them in a, HR chatbot running in your company.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that is so true. And this actually highlights a thing I've been working on recently for a talk that I will give later this month. Because this is something where at least my customers don't seem to be sensitive enough. Actually, prompt injection is a thing because they think they can write, they can basically tighten their priming of the model, the prompt priming, well enough. And then I go there, tell them like, oh yeah, just write it there. Let me just test it. And then they realize like, oh, this guy was actually able to make, I don't know, like their bot that describes a workflow talk about strawberries. And they never expected this, right? And this is, I mean, obviously I'm being nice and talk about strawberries, but I mean, obviously you can use this for other things as well. So, and I guess the entire prompt flow things will help our customers to understand the importance, and also, actually just the importance. And then maybe we can get into a discussion and see how we can work around this or how we can tackle the issue.
Yeah. And if you are interested into these topics, or maybe you are approaching AI now, so you don't have all these concepts clear to you in your mind. One session that I highly suggest, also because it's very funny and very entertaining. So Build was wrapped up by a live coding session from Anselman and Rusinovic, where they build an asteroids game using Copilot for Visual Studio and GitHub Copilot.
X. It's
Copilot X, the Copilot chat feature. And in between one demo and another, Rusinovic takes the stage to explain important concepts like LLMs, temperature, grounding, and for example, you can see what happens when you set the temperature to 2, and the model starts to write. I don't control ambulances passing.
Yeah. No. What I'm trying to say, I mean, that is a nice segue, but we also did actually a session like 2 sessions ago where we talked about the inner workings of LLMs. So if you're not into Scott Hanselman and Marc Rusinovic, but rather want to listen to Matteo's and my voice, we also did a session about this.
Yeah, indeed. But still, the one from Anselman and Rusinovic is pretty fun. So yeah.
But aren't we more fun?
That's a big debate. Yeah, that's a big debate.
Okay. Let's ask Copilot, because I see we got the Copilot counter pretty low, so we need to improve on that.
Okay. I still think that Anselman and Rusinovic probably they get slightly more views than us, but I have to check. I'm not sure.
Serious question. I mean, let's remove our Microsoft employee badge for a moment. What is your opinion on Copilot for Windows?
To be honest, I would like to try it. There are some things that impressed me positively. For example, the fact that I can drag a file and I'm able to work with that file. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see how it potentially overlaps with the Microsoft 365 Copilot. But most of all, how they're going to manage the licensing model, because running AI flows is everything but cheap. Yes, Bing AI is the same. It has the same problem. But Bing AI is a web product, so it's easier to drive advertising. And additionally, as much as Bing for sure has increased the number of users since we announced Bing AI, it's nowhere near the number of Windows users. So,
yes,
now we are talking Windows 11 users. First will be an insider preview, so a smaller number of users, but still the Windows user base is quite big, so it can generate a lot of traffic.
Oh, yes.
So that's the thing that I'm wondering about. About the product itself, to be honest, the features that I saw there were quite interesting, like the ability to say, I need to do this with Windows, and it was able to give me links that open up automatically, deep links on settings or on application or stuff like that. I'm curious to try it to see how well it integrates with the ecosystem.
But so my grab of that is, I mean, we had kind of like a version 0.1 of this with Cortana a while ago. And it has not, I mean, okay, it wasn't as sophisticated as the GPT model, but the acceptance was rather low. And that's why we also got rid of Cortana. And now we are trying this again. And I'm wondering if...
I think the big difference here is that Cortana was pushing a lot, not on the voice assistant side. And here instead we are pushing on the ChatGPT experience, and ChatGPT's experience is successful because ChatGPT is the fastest service in history to reach 1 million of users. So
but not from a revenue point of view, right? From a revenue point of view, it's definitely
no. From a revenue point of view, yes. No. My concern, I think usage will be there, because in the same way people today are opening a website and a web browser and going to ChatGPT, having it there right in Windows, I think probably people will use it. The revenue flow and the licensing model, that's a big if. Yes, on this I fully agree with you, because again, we are seeing that AI workloads are exactly cheap. So also Microsoft 365 Copilot will be a paid service, because running all these workflows is crazy expensive. So offering this feature as part of the platform would mean probably losing a lot of money in the long term. So
definitely. Yeah, it's the same with the Copilot on GitHub, right? So we are also charging, I think, like $10 a month or something for using the Copilot feature, and it might probably, I know. So I'm not doing any pricing here, but given that the resource, so GPT-4 is even more resource hungry than the existing codex models or the previous codex models. So this just means we need to either raise the prices or decrease the amount of cores we can do or whatever. I don't know.
Everyone today is everything that you see AI powered, they are charging something because it's too expensive to run it for free. The only exceptions are Bing AI, but I guess this is more part of an advertising approach of pitching us as leaders in the AI space. So it's more a marketing pitch. Or otherwise, you have routes like the ones taken by ChatGPT, where you have a free version, but it's capped. You get bandwidth when it's available. So you have a lot of limitations, which are good for playing with the ChatGPT with the feature, but not really to use it in an intensive way, because if you use it for doing work stuff, it's not a good experience to have a message. Sorry, traffic is too high. Try again later.
Well, you shouldn't use OpenAI for work-related stuff anyway. No. This is what the Samsung people learned the hard way.
That's a good point. Well, work-related stuff that doesn't require to share customer data, let's say, or private data, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, or use Azure OpenAI here. And I mean, you need to pay for this anyway. Actually, I was bringing this or using... I got my private subscription or my personal subscription, got the accepted into the Azure OpenAI. And it's not, I mean, I'm not doing this on a like power user level, but rather on an interested, like, I don't know, like I use it like once or twice a day. And my costs are considerably moderate. So it's like, I don't know, like under 10 euros a month for now. So I don't have access to GPT-4. And since I'm using this in West Europe, I'm also not using Dolly at the moment. I have an instance in East US running, but I'm basically never using it. But it's not that expensive. And given how many, so for the inference, we actually need the A100s, right? So the really big cards.
Yeah.
Which goes for like, was it like $55,000 a piece? I don't do the math in the background, but if I see we have power consumption, we have these cards, we have the hardware, and so on and so forth, how will we ever be able to make a break even here? But okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the numbers. So this is me trying to understand how we can actually make this thing profitable, or how can anyone, I mean, it's probably also the same when you, I don't know, like use a Lambda model or a BERT model or whatever. So if it's these large language or giant language models are crazy expensive to train and to run. So this can't be some cheap commodity where you're like, oh, I'm asking like Alexa asking this a few things.
No, indeed.
So yeah, I mean, and then like going back from AI and co-pilots and so on and so forth to the build, I guess we kind of like circumvented the biggest elephant in the room. There has been an announcement with a new shiny logo, which kind of like supersedes. I'm obviously talking about Fabric.
Okay. No, Fabric is your thing. So if you want to share,
well, actually, no. Actually, Fabric is not my thing because I'm not
it's not my thing either. So
doing data or whatever. But yeah, so we already had Synapse as kind of like a meta product combining a few things, and now they also added Power BI to the list and Data Lake and Synapse, and they kind of like created this
basically
giant...
it's an orchestrator for all your data sources. Okay.
Yeah. And also, I think they also added some Copilot functionalities in there. So they basically created a better Databricks on Azure, which is quite impressive. So now, the people I've talked to who are deeper into this matter told me this is quite a bold move and it is very promising. I'm not this data guy. I'm
with you. I'm not a data guy, but I saw a lot of positive and good comments about Fabric. People seems to be excited about the product.
Yeah,
but I don't know enough to say they are right, they are wrong. It's in the middle. What's good? What's I understand the value. I mean, if because the more data sources you support, having a single entry point that for all your data sources, I can see the value of that.
And also another thing is that now the customers have kind of like one price point, right? So if they want to now use Fabric or some kind of like all these moving parts that kind of belong together, now they have this single price. So now they know, I don't know, we're paying whatever, 1,000 euros a month. And they know, okay, this is worth 1,000 euros and this covers Power BI and Synapse and all these other things. Because before, so we can kind of like understand the Synapse costs roughly, but Power BI, how many users? I don't know. What else? This was our discussion. Luckily, I'm not a Power BI guy.
No, me neither.
It's much better anyway. No, of course it's not. No, seriously, but Fabric is yes. But I mean, Grafana is a managed service. We do have managed Grafana on Azure, so it's not too heretic to say.
Too heretic.
But anyway, no. So the thing here is this will probably help a lot of customers to with their data pipeline. I think isn't even Data Factory also included? Data Factory was basically the only part of this entire combination of tools that I've kind of like regularly had to use or was using, because when it came to ingestion of IoT data, of things like that, we always had to transform things. Or when we did ML, we were kind of like ingesting all these things and modifying a few. So that's why I had some touch points with Data Fabric, but never with Synapse or Power BI. All right.
Anything else you saw from build?
Come again?
Anything else you saw on build that you found interesting?
Cosmos DB also brings a vector database part now. This is what I've also learned, but I've not been able to get into the private preview yet. So Prometheus is becoming a fully managed service for Azure Monitor. So this is, well, for me that is using Prometheus, sometimes this is interesting. I'm not kind of like in the position that I want to use this in Azure Monitor. But yeah, so at open source or integrating open source stuff is always great. And then there were like tons of Kubernetes things, but given my opinion about Kubernetes,
I don't use Kubernetes, so I'm not a container guy, luckily, in my line of work. So,
oh, you know what we forgot? What was it, like the deployment environments? Isn't this where they kind of like showcase? There was this tool for Windows that you could basically, that was in the store in the preview, where you could create a deployment environment from your existing virtual machine, share this with customers or with co-workers. So you kind of like had the same setup.
Did you try the DevBox, DevHome? No?
Isn't this? I thought that. Yeah, so I just downloaded
So
this.
they announced a couple of nice things for Windows in terms of developer experience. One is the Dev Home, which is this
Yes.
app that you can use to, well, first you have some widgets to get some info about GitHub repositories, CPU usage, and stuff like that. And then you can do something similar to what you said. So basically, you can say, "This is my machine. I want these apps." And it generates basically a template that through Winget you can automatically, so you can quickly set up a dev machine. And then they have announced also the dev box.
Probably I'm mixing
the
these,
dev drive.
mixing two things up. Yeah, right. Those
The
were
dev
the
drive, I think it's called. You have a dev drive on Windows 11, yes, which is basically you can create. It's coming in Insider Preview, or maybe it's already there in Insider Preview, and basically you can create a partition of your drive using not an NTFS but RFS as a file system, which is optimized for source code. So no Defender. There are a few tweaks that make it really fast for working with source code.
No, I was actually meaning the dev box part, right?
So the dev box is basically like running a machine in the cloud, which is already fine-tuned for Windows workload, for development workloads.
For development, yeah. So basically, and here's the thing that I didn't really get. Maybe you can share some light on this. So isn't there already this feature on GitHub where we can have this dev box inside of a dev environment inside of
this
GitHub?
is slightly different because in GitHub you have code spaces, which is
code spaces.
Code spaces, but code spaces it's limited. It's very good, but you don't have access to the machine. It's basically a Visual Studio Code instance where you can run your workloads in the cloud. It works very well, but it's limited to specific workloads that are optimized for the type of scenarios. The dev box instead is really a VM in the cloud, so you can have any type of workloads. You can install full Visual Studio. You can do everything that you do on your traditional native development machine.
Okay. Was I able? So I never used code spaces, I have to admit, on GitHub. Was I able to add only 2 times, and that was a pre-created one. Was I able to add the own dependencies? Like, for example, if I use a specific .NET version or Python version, or was this kind of like outside of scope for the?
That's a good question. I don't know if you can customize and control these kind of things. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I would say something false, so I don't know.
Got it. Okay, so
for example, if you're building a Windows application or a background process, stuff like that, Codespaces is not a good fit. Codespaces is good for a web application, a web API, these kind of things. With DevBox, instead, you have a full virtual machine. You connect via remote desktop, and it's a full optimized dev machine.
Okay, so it's a Windows box. It's Windows only, or are we getting
I think it's Windows only.
Got it. So there's no, I don't know, Mac OS would probably be also very interesting.
No, no, it's not. It's not there right now. We have, I think, Mac OS only for running CI/CD workloads, not really for.
The agents.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the documentation, and it says Windows-based dev boxes resources. So
got it.
Needed for desktop, mobile, web, game development. Mobile and game are another 2 type of scenarios that, for example, they don't work well on code spaces.
Okay.
You can't plug a phone.
So do you have like full access? So can you mount your USB camera and microphone into the dev box and have this like as a replacement for your powerful desktop computer, and rather have like a thin client or worst case?
I don't have enough experience to tell you that, but I think yes, because underline it's the same technology that we are using for Microsoft 365, Windows. I don't remember, Windows 365, I think it's called, or Azure Virtual Desktop. So the idea of running a desktop workload in the cloud. So there should be a way to plug your own resources. If you remember our mutual friend David, he was using this to join Teams meeting with camera and everything. So I guess the answer is yes. But I don't have first-hand experience.
This was actually why I was aiming it, because I thought like maybe this can help our mutual friend David to overcome his Teams issues on a virtual machine.
But the idea here is that this is tailored for developers, because other than already having all the tools already installed, it's also basically you can create an environment, and then starting from this environment, you can create a certain number of machines. So you have a new developer joining in the team, you create a new machine out of the same environment, basically. So she gets the same machine as all the other people in the team.
But isn't this the same? Okay. Okay. So this is basically the cloud counterpart for the machine configuration part of Dev Home.
Yes, more or less. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So Dev Home is more a way to say, I have a new machine or I have a new developer, and here is your PC, and here is the template you need to use to install everything we need in the company to build apps. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Good to know.
No, I mean, the dev drive seems very interesting. I haven't tried it yet because I have a shiny new machine, and to be honest, I don't want to put an insider build there right now. So I'm waiting for...
Why not?
Yeah, let's say I will wait for the feature to be available in more stable builds of Windows, but that one I'm looking forward to give it a try and maybe move my sources over there.
Interesting. All right. I haven't understand this entire part why I would want to share my already existing. So the idea of a GitHub or like of a repository drive, I don't get the point, because it's already a repository of multiple repositories that I can clone anyway. But okay.
No, it's more a performance thing. So basically, this is a special. So the drive is managed in a way that becomes more performant for source code, because first it's using RFS as a file system, which should be better for source code. And there are some built-in optimization, like, for example, Windows Defender is automatically turned off on this drive.
Okay.
And there are some other tweaks that makes it faster for compiling, building, restoring packages, and doing all the type of things that you do with source code, typically.
Okay, I understand. That makes then sense, especially the Defender part. That's actually a good thing. Okay.
All right. I guess we can call it a day for this episode. As usual, we will keep in the dark because we like to be secret. We like to keep secrets for the next episode topic.
Especially now that we have become unregular with the release schedule, because personal life has come.
That's part of the secret. So we don't tell the topic, and we don't even tell when. So
fingers crossed we will be able to. When are you going on vacation, Matteo?
End of the month. So let's see if we can hit one episode before I leave, since it will be a long leave.
Oh wait, so you won't be available for recordings during the...
No, well, we can find the time. So this is part of fun, not work. So we can find the time.
Great. All right. Talk to you next time.
Hello, bye-bye, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.